Guys,
We are yes, a bit delayed today. Um, we have travel fun, happening. As you can see, Cameron is not in his office at the Carlson Center. You can see I'm in
no.
my office, but Cameron is not.
Oh no, it looks
Um,
pretty static. It could be just a background.
it's just a
We
Zoom
don't
background
actually know.
here. That's really what it is. Although it looks like did they misprint your name on your shirt? It says Kim instead of Cam.
Exactly. Yes, it's it's on this side. Yep, they misdid it, so I got to go back and I'll
Yeah.
be sure to let you know who did it, so you don't go there for your printing.
Somebody needs to lose their job, obviously,
Exactly.
but no, this is the Chicago International Marathon. Is that what the CIM is there?
This is the California International Marathons. This is the one I did in December. But yes,
Mm.
the Chicago Marathon is on Sunday, so I'm yeah, gearing up for the 26.2 joy of, you know, being on my feet. So,
So you,
hopefully it takes less time than, prior times, but we'll see.
it sounds like you haven't yet earned the Chicago swag yet. So you have the
No,
California
see,
swag,
yeah,
but yeah.
see, that's always the challenge is you want to buy the kit before because you're like, that's one, so you actually get your size and everything, but then you're like, I haven't quite earned it yet. So you
Hmm.
gotta you gotta get through the finish because if you don't finish, then do you want to, you know, Chicago Marathon shirt if you know,
Yeah.
don't get there. But
Well, it do be like that sometimes. It do. But Cameron's traveling, so apologies for the delay. We may have some adventures next week as I'm traveling on Friday, but I don't have the times yet solidified, so we may have to call an audible or maybe we have to bring in a substitute teacher to
yeah,
replace
there we go.
me. We'll see,
Substitute.
but we
Yeah.
want, we want to keep the thing rolling. Rather push it a half hour than cancel. So. But that's that. We've got 5 questions. Obviously, we prioritize the live ones. Hopefully, y'all are still able to join us. If you've got a live question, throw it down into the chat, or I guess if you're on the desktop, the chat is off to the right. But anyway, drop it wherever you see the little box that says comment, and we'll rock and roll there. But we do have 5 questions. You guys delivered from my begging and pleading on Sunday, or no, when was that? Tuesday,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we burned through,
We're,
yeah, all the questions.
I think you were pulling from the Sunday of Startup Challenge of all those that filled out the survey of the
Yeah,
begging and
maybe
pleading.
it was that. maybe it was that. But we've got some questions answered. We've got 5. Sounds like, I see Cameron. You're already diving in there. So
Yeah.
should we skip the die or should we roll a die?
If you got the die, let's make it lie.
All right. All right. Here it goes. It's gonna fly. Starting on question 5.
Mm,
All
all
right.
right.
So this is for it's B2B SaaS for independent PR consultants and small PR agencies. They are at the paid pilot stage, and they say their media database and outreach tool has 18 paying pilots at $99 per month, but they're all asking for journalist contact info that we don't have. Building a comprehensive media database would cost $500,000 or more and require constant updates. Should we pivot or find partners? PR pros love our pitch tracking and follow-up features, but constantly ask, do you have contact info for journalists at publication X? Competitors like Cision, I think that's how you pronounce that, charge 10,000 plus annually, partly because of their databases. We could partner with existing databases, but that kills our margins. Not sure if we can compete without this feature. You have any thoughts, or you want me to dive
Yeah,
in
I mean,
there?
so my initial thoughts are, I mean, it's great that you have paid pilots. I'd be curious of just like how long the pilots are set up for and like what's that, are they paying the full $99 a month that you're expecting them to pay going forward? And how long is that pilot period lasting? And then at the end of it, like, is there an increase in their price or what does that look like? So I think how you set that up, I would be diving into a little bit more. the fact that they're asking for some of these other things that aren't in your core focus would be like, are you meeting the needs of the pilot? So delivering the value that you've set out to ultimately deliver on. But then on the other side of that is like, this seems a little bit outside of your own like bailiwick, for lack of a better term. And it seems like someone's already solving this problem at a higher price point. And so it seems like even if you were to come in to build your own, you're going to be doing the same thing and in quite a big investment. And so I think I'd go back to looking at, are you delivering on the promise that you set out to? And then what, maybe if something does need to shift in the product, then that's something different. But if you're delivering on the promise and they'll continue on and you're retaining them, it's how do you go find more customers? And that is nice to have down the line, or you could bring on partners and make referrals. But those are the first things that come to mind for me. But if they're not canceling because of that, then I don't see this may be a yellow flag in that case.
I think I think I agree with all of that. That all seems fairly reasonable. Um, like I think like the takeaway for me, kind of from what you're saying, is like, is there a value proposition mismatch, right?
Mhm.
And so like, are they asking for something that is beyond the capabilities at the price point that you're offering it? So in other words, they just want more than the money can buy them, and right, because like if they're not, like if they're willing to pay more for more, then why aren't they going with the other guys? Like, what's the distinction here? Is kind of interesting
Right.
and important to me. And if they are just trying to get something at a higher price point that they can't afford, then that just is what it is, right? And then you're either solving a big enough pain without it, or you're not. And that's where I think that like that definitional work for the pilot becomes important. It's like, what were
Right.
they agreed? What did they agree to? And what were they looking at for a measure of success? And if those are tied to something that they can't really achieve without these additional list of journalists, then I think that kind of gives you the answer there, that you have a promise mismatch, right? That they're
Right.
looking for something that your value proposition actually isn't going to deliver, and then maybe that's a pivot to a completely different customer segment.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking about that. I mean, you can also try to find partners, but this could also be an upsell thing, right? So like if you want to find partners and then raise your price to defend the margin, then that can be something that you can do as well. So I think there's some things to explore there, but it's going to come back to like, what is the value proposition and why are we missing?
Yeah. Like, what would be a good way to experiment on that, like, latter part of like an upsell? Like, is that something where maybe you position like this is on our roadmap and seeing if people would pre-order or pre-sign up for such an offering? Like, what comes to
Mhm.
mind from an experimentation process that they might be able to test to warrant if this is truly something that they want to deliver on? I am caveating, like, they still haven't moved out of pilots to full paying customers, right? So
Yeah.
but as you think of that, what kind of comes to mind?
A couple of things come to mind. So ordinarily, like if you just wanted to explore something like this, I would be a big fan of like a fake door test of some kind, right? So if you can see if you can get them to inside the app, wherever, somewhere where they're looking at these other media contacts, and you have a button that says access our journalist database, right? And you click that, and you mention it's an upsell, and you mention the price, and then you click, have a button to like sign up. And when they click the sign up, you say you're full, and we're working to release this out over time or whatever. And you can do different phrasing on it, but the point is that what you're doing is having them go through the motions as if it were real. But the door they can't actually go through, it's a fake door, and that's the distinction. So that the evidence that you're getting is strong because they actually clicked a button that said sign up for this price, even though you're not actually having to build it. And so then you can use that as evidence for, does this work? But you only have you have 18 paying pilots. So a fake door test actually might even be overkill here. This might just be a standard sales thing. Like, can you get these people, like if you go and talk to them and you say, oh, we want access to this journalist database thing, and you tell them like, well, like we can do that, but this is going to be the price for that add-on. Can you just get them to pre-commit to something like that, or a letter of intent for something like that, or pre pay? I don't know what it's going to take for you to get this database. Like I'm assuming in order to explore the pricing, you're also going to have already talked to some of the partners. So maybe you have a good understanding of that and can put some definitional work around that. But those are two things that would come to mind for me as far as experiment methodologies.
Boom. Love it. Thanks for diving into that. I love those examples.
Cool. Um, Let's see. Did we
Or
get? Have we warmed up the chat?
yeah, warmed it up a tad. So have someone said they were putting their kid down for a nap. So so hopefully when they come back, maybe they'll ask a question. So
It is that time. It's toddler nap time. All right. Let's roll the die again. That was a 6, and we only have 5. Number 1. All right. So
grab that.
yeah, go ahead and grab that one, and I will start the reading. So it's a B2B SaaS again, but for freelance writers and content creators who pitch to publications. They're at the MVP in progress stage. And they said, we're building a CRM for freelance writers to track their pitches and submissions, but writers we've talked to say they already use spreadsheets and notebooks. How do we convince people to switch from free tools that work fine to avoid our paid product? How do we convince people to switch from free tools that work fine to our paid product? So Cameron's really going to get triggered here by the word convince there. And then we have interviewed 50 plus freelance writers. Most use Google Sheets or paper notes. They acknowledge it's messy and hard to track follow, so switching to new software feels like extra work, considering whether our product needs to be 10x better than spreadsheets or if we're solving a problem people just don't care about. So one thing for me, like that you're kind of pointing at, and I'm sure Cameron's going to want to speak to the convince thing because it's come up pretty regularly, but the thing you're ending there that you're kind of poking at, this like, do we need to be 10x better? I coincidentally last night gave a talk on value proposition design, and one of the things we were talking about was like relative to your competition. If your goal is to compete in that space with those competitors and be better, you can't just be a little better. You have to be like 10x better. So I actually am going to acknowledge that you do have to be 10x better than the competition, which in this case is a Google spreadsheet. And so if you're just giving them something that is like good enough and yeah, it'd work, it'd be a little bit easier, but there's this big switching cost to it, then you have to be sufficiently better to overcome the switching cost. And the switching cost here is not just the monthly fee that they're going to pay you, it's also the cost of taking whatever they have offline right now and putting that new process into your tool. So like just even getting the data in there. Did my camera just turn off?
Mm-hmm. I didn't like what you were saying.
Yeah, apparently not. So I don't know what's up with that. I think maybe it had overheated or something. But I'll fix that in just a second. But they have to get all their data back in there, but then they also have to adapt their day-to-day workflow to using the new thing. And so all of that is part of this switching cost. But Cameron, I know you want to talk about that word convince.
Yeah, we see this all the time. It's like that early sales process of wanting to convince your early customers that they need it, and that demonstrates there's not really that urgency around any particular pain point, right? So if we're really pushing it on them at this early stage, they're not really your early adopter, that top of the pyramid that has this real urgent and severe pain point that they're actively looking for a solution and allocated a budget for it. And so that's kind of that like nice to have space. And so you do need to be that 10x better in that process. And we also often talk a lot about that concept of inertia and that there's a lot of things going against it. So that's not only like, okay, is this the best allocation of resources, but also then in terms of their ability to integrate new workflows. So when we think of like allocating a budget, we often think of it just purely in the context of, do we have the financial dollars allocated to solve this particular problem? But oftentimes is more associated with even the integrations and the process that needs to be changed. And so when we think about creating that 10x and leap in value, like how do we quantify what that's going to do? Is it saved time, saved money? Is it both of those? And how is that return then implemented back as we go forward? And so if we have to convince them that they're going to get that value, then that's a large question mark already for us. So you shouldn't be convincing your early customers. They should already be searching for it and trying to do something and have the resources dedicated and excited to move on such an opportunity when they see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Just switch. This is just the onboard camera on my MacBook here. So apologies for the quality. My camera did overheat, I think. I've been needing to get a new one. This one is an old mirrorless camera from I don't know, 2014 or something like that. So it's well beyond its warranty life here. But anyway, so yeah, I don't think we have much more to say than that, right? Because there's a it's a fundamental disconnect that we have right now.
Yeah, I'm just maybe putting a note for us. Like, I wonder what we can call like that space where someone's in, they find themselves in that convincing space. Like there's like we could probably come up with some traction lab IP around like you're in the, we say the grown zone or those types of things, but like you're in some sort of zone that like you're, fighting against the inertia and momentum that you want to ultimately be that attractor
Yeah.
beam component of it.
Yeah, there's probably like a magnet versus a like grappling hook kind of metaphor
Mm,
here, right? There's some thing that's whatever the inverse of like demand generation, right, is for
yeah,
something like this. Like premature sales mode or something like that.
yeah,
But we need some IP around this for sure because we talk about it
yeah.
talk about it a lot. Um, so, and speaking of like it, when I was giving that talk last night, I also sort of discovered I have this language that I was using from years ago that I think it doesn't really fit the vibes anymore. And so it's like this when you're in this
It's
that
more
severity.
vibe than validation.
No, no, no. I mean no. I mean in the cultural zeitgeist of
Fair enough.
2025. I don't think of it. So like it's the thing that I call the slow startup suicide, and like I don't
Mm,
I, I don't think that fits really well anymore. And so I want a different term for it. But it's that idea when you have severity of pain, but you don't have the urgency to solve the pain, and so you get
right,
all these signals that seem like you're on the right track, and then they never actually
right.
convert to sales because it lacked the urgency. And so it's this trap that you fall into that I call the slow startup suicide because you don't, if you're not paying attention, you will actually miss it until it's way too late and you've burnt all the time and capital. So that anyway, slow startup unaliving doesn't have the same alliteration to it. So anyway, we just need to have an IP session at some point, Cameron, and just kind of go
Well, I think
through
we
all
have
this
one of
and.
those coming up. So
I think our whiteboard strategy session should probably focus on more
yeah,
important things than what do
not
we call
not
all the things.
yeah, fair enough.
Um,
Very
but
true.
anyway, yeah, I don't have anything more to say about that one. Do
Cool.
you?
Nope. I think we're
Okay,
solid there.
we'll just go in order now, so we don't end up with dice problems. But let's talk about the health tech, med tech. Oh, cool, nice, a little different change of pace here. Targeting small medical practices with 1 to 5 primary care and pediatrics physicians. So small practices with 1 to 5 docs. They're at the unpaid pilot stage, and they say our patient intake automation tool saves practices 2+ hours per day, but doctors won't commit to paying because they're worried about patient adoption. Older patients especially are resistant to digital forms. How do we overcome the "my patients won't use it" objection? 7 practices and unpaid pilots. Staff loves it, but doctors are nervous about patient experience. About 30% of patients, 65 plus, prefer paper, considering a hybrid approach, digital plus paper option, but that reduces the efficiency gains that we're selling.
So the first thing that comes to mind, if you're cool with me hopping in,
Yeah.
was just like so when they talk about the value prop, it being time saved to the offices or to the practices and 2+ hours per day, I think I'm glad they're quantifying it. I'd be curious of what that like equates to in terms of like I guess dollars and cents. Like, are they able to apply that time in a different way, or do they just end their day early? But what I'm seeing is this misalignment of like the doctors probably don't care that they're saving this time when there's a risk of them losing customer satisfaction because it like saves time on the office end, but it adds a whole new friction element for customer engagement. And so if it saved time and increase customer satisfaction, that's a different experience because now you're like getting that flow through of processing quicker, but also then delivering more value on the other end, which makes then those customers come back. And so it seems like there's a misalignment of just like or not clearly articulating the time saved to dollars coming into the company. Whereas the question the doctor that I'm hearing asking is like, I hear a risk of losing money even though we save time, which has time savings, right? And so it's like, does that give them, are we opening up time for people who then can go do more things, or is it just opening up more time for less? How is that going to be reallocated? Is kind of what comes to mind for me. But also putting kind of a note out there is just the risk of the unpaid pilots, always something that we refer back to. But again, I don't think we have to dive into it as deep as we always do, but really something to point to as a major risk going forward, particularly if we don't have a clear value prop of, hey, it's just time saved versus dollars out. Then when we go for that final ask, it's going to be hard to close that deal, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that, and just underline that, like, this is the risk of unpaid pilots, right? Without measures of real success here. So I'll take it in a slightly different direction. So I think what you might be encountering here, and this is again assuming that you could get all the same thing done for a paid pilot with an actual commitment, is that they're like, well, you can save them 2+ hours per day, but there's this you're expressing as a fear, but it sounds like there might be a need for some type of paper system here. But that doesn't will that lessen the 2+ hours per day that they get? Probably, but we're talking about 30% of those over 65, right? And so when you're targeting pediatrics, like, that's going to be a pretty small percentage of the overall forms that you get. And even if unless you're and have a practice that skews a lot older, like, it's still going to be somewhere less than 30%, right? Because it's 30% of those 65 and older. So even if we were to lose 30% of that savings, we're talking about then losing less than 40 minutes out of that 2-hour savings. And so they're still saving an hour and 20 minutes. Like, that's just how the math works there. An hour and 20 minutes per day, which, if you do the math there, is 6.5 hours plus per week that they're saving. So, sorry, 7 hours and change that they're saving. So, that doesn't seem like it's that big of a hit. And so I'm curious about two things. So one, is it just a question of having the paper thing as an option? Or two, is that actually just a friction that's getting expressed, but isn't actually the real reason for the objection, which we see a lot in paid pilots, is that they're resting their hat on this easy thing that, oh, I'm worried about the paper process. But because you never had them get skin in the game, as part of the pilot, the real reasons are having to do with severity and urgency and so forth are just not there. And this was just something that they could hang their hat on and point back to it. So that's kind of what comes to mind for me. Boom.
Well, I think we filled in that 2 hours of saving there and answering.
What happens when we bump this time is that we get a little less engagement real time.
Yes, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's on me. So,
well, it is what it is. It's fine. We get more on the replays anyway, so people are still liking it. That's fine. We're good. Let's do one more, because I think we got time for one more. We'll do the lightning round here. We won't get through all 5. We'll bump the question 4 to Tuesday on Substack, but
let's do number 3. Let's do number 3. I'd be curious of the insurance space. That's cool.
Okay. Let's number 3.
Red, I just saw insurance, and let's see. So I'll throw the question in the chat. There we go.
So it's a B2B SaaS for independent insurance agents selling home and auto insurance. They are currently between 100 and 1 million ARR. Oh, they listed specifically 190,000 ARR with our insurance quoting platform. But agents keep asking us to integrate with more carriers. Each integration takes 3 to 4 months and costs $40,000 plus in development. How do we prioritize integrations when every agent needs different carriers? 110 paying agents at $145 per month average. We support 8 major carriers, but agents work with 20 plus carriers total. Each agent has their own must-have carriers based on their state customer base. Building all integrations would take years, but saying no to integrations requests costs us deals. Fun.
This is a tougher one. But yeah, I guess first thing, awesome on, seems like you got some customers coming in and paying. So, and would be curious just from their retention of what that, delivering on the ARR, one of the things. So I guess if it's, I'm not very good at quick math here, but 145 times 12. So we're about, 1740 in a total annual per customer. So in terms of current customers, they're, they're looking pretty decent. They're at 190 customers. But I guess what I'm thinking is like, is there a density that's needed? So if it changes based on state to state, kind of going with the national approach can be challenging for kind of some of these different carriers. And so wondering if there's like a
Mhm.
geographic focus where there is a consolidation of much easier to like build to suit that set of customers. And then from as you go from state to state, looking at okay, California might be a lot like Washington, and so therefore that's the next expansion market versus just a general market approach going forward. So that would be kind of my thought versus kind of this, hey, we're going to take all the customers we can get, but they're all in, 10 different states that have then all these different carriers. And so let's consolidate that to say, hey, we're going to launch in California, or maybe there's a better market that has easier to work with insurance agencies or something. And so we're going to wedge into the market with them and grow there. And then now we have a solid or a more solid base to then go into the next market. So I think there might be some strategy to apply there. That's the first frame of mind. So then your 40K investment in the development and then ultimately the investment of the time along that process of building the integration is more leveraged.
Yeah, I completely agree. Right, this is go to market 101. Right, if you try to go too broad, it's gonna cost you too much. And I think you're just seeing like a really strong manifestation of that here. Right, and so is it geography? Is it industry? Is it a combination of those things? Is it the kind of insurance? Like a generalized business insurance, like general liability versus professional liability and business owner policies. Is it auto? Like whatever. Like is there some way that you can really narrow in where the pain is felt the most, or where you can just from a sales perspective, land and expand, right, and find a wedge into the market or something. Depending on which strategy makes more sense. So like that's what I'm thinking there. That's number one. Number two that I'm thinking here is that this idea of it costing you 40K per integration, I think is actually sounds like a missed opportunity for me, because the integration to get quotes from other carriers should be delivering more deals to those carriers. Why are you paying for that integration entirely if you're delivering value to the carrier that you're integrating? And so like
Mm-hmm.
that tells me that there's a conversation needs to happen here. It's like, what is it going to take for these carriers to actually help you in that process that you don't have to do it all entirely on your own? How can you create added value for them to get them on board with something like that? Is there something there? Because you should in theory be delivering them value. And if you're not delivering them value, then I actually don't know what they're doing on the platform in the first place. So that might be something that I would look at as well.
I love it.
Cool.
So we got I'm just going to give one moment, maybe in the meantime, see if anyone has any questions. But coming up, just again, some things to put on your radar is maybe show the Grow Tech Fest coming up on November 5th and 6th. So that would be a place to plug in. There's that's kind of cool with the chat questions that are coming in.
Yeah, it's kind of new. Neat. Okay.
Well, awesome. Well, I think outside of Grow Tech Fest coming up, check that out. Josh and I will be doing a workshop there on traction science. So plug into that. We'll be back with our office hours going again next week. A new traction thinking article, I think, launched on Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was maybe yesterday.
Yep.
So talking about kind of your TAM and understanding your market sizing and the approach to that. And then also put on your radar the week of November 17th is Global Entrepreneurship Week. Will be a lot of events and activities that week, from Mentor Sprint to a pitch competition, NorCal AngelCon, and then Josh and I will be doing a live recording kind of AMA for Zero to Traction. So come ask us anything and you'll be featured on our podcast as well, because your questions will be a part of it. So that would be great. So other than that, anything come to mind for you?
I think you got all the major things covered there. It's a busy time. We got lots of stuff coming up. Come hang out with us in Chico at GrowTech Fest first week in November. That's I think that Thursday, Friday that week, and the Global Entrepreneurship Week as well coming up. Lots of fun stuff. It's time. It's time for entrepreneurship. It's time to hustle. If you want to plug in the Traction Lab so you can apply some of this traction science shit to your startup to help get rapid forward progress on the march to product market fit and funding, then hit us up. Well, happy to talk to you. So
Nice. We got, this is some good insights. So thanks, JP, for continually coming back. And, we know you plug into our zero distraction as well. So thanks for joining us, and appreciate the engagement. Cool.
Awesome. Well, with that,
All
we
right.
must bid you adieu. Cameron, good luck with your marathon.
Thank you. I will be sure to report back.
Indeed.
If I don't, then, maybe I didn't make it to the other side. Or I made it to the other side, if you know what I mean.
Canada?
Sure, I ran too far. All righty.
All right. Cool.
Thanks. Cheers.
All right.
Bye.
With